Now let's talk to Dr. Brad Braxton. Terrific, strong message on forgiveness, Brad. You started the message with the statement that people who do not forgive are imprisoned by the past. Have you ever felt that way?
I have felt that way. In fact, part of my experience with forgiveness comes from my own hurts and the notion that forgiveness actually is a gift of liberation to oneself. And I finally realized that in order to really be free and to have the abundance that Christ offers to us and the liberation that is promised to us in Scripture, I had to give myself the gift of forgiveness so that I could be a better Brad.
To be free. And you addressed that in the Bray lectures you were invited to give at Oxford on the 200th anniversary of the end of the slave trade. How does that weave in, and what do you say to people about that history?
It's a very powerful narrative that I've been involved in the last couple of months. This year represents the 200th anniversary of the end of the slave trade in the British Empire. So groups in London, England invited me to come and help communities think about that tremendous hostility that was sowed into the moral universe centuries ago. And so one of the things I've been thinking about is, how do you speak to those who were involved, or at least the heirs of those who were involved in the slave trade? How do you help them come to grips with that tremendous hostility? And then also, how do you speak a word of healing to those who were the victims, or they are the heirs of the victims? And so I've been moving around the country and even the world thinking about forgiveness, giving this gift of liberation so that we might have a better world, a more peaceful world, a world of release, as I mentioned in the message, where no longer are we bottled up with hostility, but we let that go for the sake of a better and more just and peaceful world.
And to hear you talk, Brad, this is a very active process, isn't it? That we have to engage ourselves in a very conscious way.
It is.
Do you think we do that often enough, or do we wait for the timing of forgiveness to show itself and then take action in that moment?
I think too often religious communities have taught that forgiveness is a passive reality.
Okay.
But if you come at it as an active spiritual discipline, then you need to be honest with yourself and say that when you suffer a hurt, when a wrong is done to you, there is a process that one has to go through. By no means do I want to say to people that forgiveness is an automatic process. There is a place for anger. There is a place for bitterness. But what I'm trying to suggest is it cannot stay long to take root in your heart and in your soul, so that you must actively, through conversation, through meditation, through this process of reflection, learn to get this hostility out of you, lest your whole being be poisoned by this. So I think we need to do a better job of teaching that it is an active spiritual discipline.
It is acknowledgement of the injustice for the victim an integral part of that process?
It is a major part of the process. Something about that acknowledgement humanizes those who've been injured. And it says, in spite of you trying to move on, that is you, the perpetrator, I have not moved on. There's something that is still hurting me and my community. And I need you to acknowledge that, because in acknowledging that, you are actually acknowledging my humanity. And now we can engage in a process of moving forward towards a new future.
You quoted Archbishop Desmond Tutu in your message. What a wonderful, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. It also reminded me of the murder victims' families for reconciliation, who are against the death penalty, who have forgiven those who have taken the lives of their loved ones.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that forgiveness is a Christian birthmark. But what do you say to non-Christians?
I would say the same thing to non-Christians, in the sense that those persons who are really concerned about goodness in the world, who are concerned about positive moral energy, even if they do not make any kind of particular faith claim, if they are concerned about a better world for us and for those who come after us, it too should be a birthmark for a moral person, a person who says, as long as I keep hostility within me, the world will be a place of violence and a place of warfare. But it is at this individual level that we must start. And so I want that birthmark, whether or not I'm a Christian, whether I'm a Jew, a Muslim, or a person of no religious affiliation. It is what it means to be a moral person concerned about goodness and positive spiritual energy in the world.
We've only got about 30 seconds left, Brad. I think of the recent example of the friends in the forgiveness over the murder in the schoolhouse. the wonderful part of this is the end product of this transforming power of forgiveness, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think about the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 5, where he talks about new creation. Indeed, if there is to be a new creation, forgiveness must become a regular part of our spiritual practice. As Archbishop Desmond Tutu says, we must forgive if there is to be a future.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Brett. We appreciate it.
Thank you.